So, time for a little bit of Thundercats. Ho! As they say. Yeah, so this is going to be a slightly odd video in the sense that I never actually owned any Thundercats toys from the original run of Thundercats, but I do have this annual. And as you see here, you have all of the sort of original team and their arch nemesis, Mumra the Ever Living. There's Panthro, Chitara, Lino, Tigra, Jarga, Wildcat, Wildcat, and Snarf. And there's a strange tale behind what I'm about to show you and sort of unbox, in effect, for you. Because when I was at the Doncaster Toy Fair the other day, I completely by accident picked up a Tigra figure, not from this line, but from the 2011 reboot of Thundercats. And that's by far and away the youngest toy that I've ever picked up with a view to, looking at it for one of these videos. That perhaps the odd bit of sort of clue that I picked up from Legacy as well. But this sheer quality of that toy led me to do the inevitable, which was go on an eBay hunt. And I came across a seller who had a really sort of nice grouping of the figures, including their weapons, which I know that from a collecting point of view, from a completion point of view, is always a good idea. So what I'm going to do is I'll just show this annual briefly, but this isn't really what the focus of the video is. But there you have the two protagonists facing off. If you are not familiar, the gist of the original Thundercats series from the 80s was that this team of sort of refugee Thundercats had abandoned their planet, which was self-destructing, and arrived on what I think was termed New Earth, actually. And arriving there, they used resources from their ship to create what's known as this cat's lair. Actually, this cat's lair here. That's convenient. And a thunder tank and a few other bits and bobs, and basically set themselves up a new colony. But they were threatened by a mystical chap called Mumra, who one minute was a tiny withered mummy guy, but then could transform into a much more powerful form, but couldn't last very long. And he was after the Eye of Thundero, which was in the Sword of Omens, which you can just about see there, which is carried by Lino. And Lino, although he's the leader of the Thundercats by right, he was actually very young when they got on their ship, and he matured inside a stasis chamber, but his mind is still young. So his body's matured, but he's still got a lot to learn about leadership. And that was the basic setup for this series. Now, I understand that the new series is same characters, but it's a slightly different sort of setup. And I must admit, I haven't watched very much of it at all, but I was aware of it. But obviously I was significantly older, so I didn't really sort of follow it. But I was also aware that it didn't last very long. But what I hadn't appreciated, because I wasn't, sort of looking at toys at the time, was that they released this toy range for it. And I've now seen a lot of figures and a lot of vehicles, and the vehicles are really pretty. I thought that was a Thundercat, but it isn't. This, however, I'm reasonably confident is, in fact, a Thundercat. Now, these were always the really sort of annoying characters in the show, but not the most annoying character. And here you have little skateboards for Wily Kit and Wily Cat. Oh, well, that's interesting. I have no idea who she is. Who on earth is that? Looks like a sort of scroll. Okay, I didn't realise I was getting that in the lot. I had no idea that she was in there. So answers on a postcard, please, if you can tell me who on earth that character is, because I haven't... Is that Wily... Oh, hang on, is that Wily Kit? Oh, it must be Wily Kit, of course, because she was a girl. It was a girl and a boy. Sorry, yeah, okay. Scratch that. I know who they are. Wily Kit, Wily Cat. Okay. She just looked really different to the one that I was used to from that sort of original series there. That's where I was thrown completely. They look a little bit... they're not as well, because they're smaller, of course, they're not as well articulated as the bigger models. But they've used their tails as the way in which they attach to their skateboard. So I'm guessing that she, stereotypically speaking, has the pink skateboard. Yep, and he's got the blue one. So that's quite clever. I've never seen a tail used as a fixing point before. So that's fair news to them. And in here, I seem to have a large collection of swords of omen, and the claw that Lionel also used to use to great advantage against Mum-Ra. Mum-Ra couldn't stand his own reflection. It's amazing what comes back to you, because I haven't actually researched any of this, but it is coming back to me just by sort of looking at stuff and thinking about it. But as you can see there, I've got all sorts of bits and bobs there, which for Panthrone, this is one of the things that drew me to this particular auction, because I just thought this is quite a nice way to get, quite a decent set of accessories with all the figures. So I won't mess with that any further. Let's get into the rest of them. So we'll pop them over there. I'll leave them in the shot. Let's see what else we've got in here. Okay, so I'm going to get a repeat in here, and this I know but what I didn't. This is the Tigra figure that I picked up at the fair. Arguably, this one's a little bit looser actually. It's still in very good shape. But what I didn't have was any of these sorts of accessories. So I immediately noticed that obviously he's got this sort of belt that he can hold stuff in. It even looks like it might be a holster there as well. So maybe he was armed. In the originals, they were more sort of like, they had sort of more sort of ninja sort of weapons. They had sort of nunchucks and bow staffs and that sort of all that sort of good stuff. So that's Tigra. Up there. I can't quite remember now. As his feet are at angles as well, so they've got a lot of articulation going for them, which is always nice. I'm actually wondering if that is exactly the same armor as the one that I have. So here's the leader of the gang, Lionel. So he's got elbow joints. His hands are fixed actually. But he's got knee joints as well. And he's got feet joints as well. So yeah, he's got ankle joints. So, but I mean, the sort of the quality of the figure I think is really impressive. You can see the sort of Eye of Thundera kind of symbol there, which is the symbol of the Thundercats. I think the way that they did it for this new series, there were more houses involved. So there were more sort of species on Thundera, I think. I don't actually know if the planet actually exploded in that version, or if it was just a general kind of planet-wide thing. I think they were trying to collect some sort of power stones, actually. I mean, obviously, Avengers have kind of been there and done that, but at the time, perhaps that was... Well, no, actually, that wouldn't have been new, because... I forgot I had this. So this is the rather sort of skeletal, mummified version of Mum-Ra the Ever-Living. I don't know what his backstory was in the new version, but this is very much what he looked like in the original series as well. So the sort of the red cape, the bandages, very much a sort of classic mummy sort of figure until he powers up. And once he does power up, he's very much on a par with Lino and all the other Thundercats in terms of physicality, but he can be defeated by virtue of his own reflection, or at least he could be in the original series. So nice to have a protagonist as well. This is Cheetara, who all the boys remember very fondly from the original cartoon. She was the speedster of the team, effectively. So she was capable of incredible bursts of speed, and could knock the enemy about with her bow staff in great numbers because of her speed, making her effectively untouchable by them. And she is similarly very nicely articulated, like the others. And again, the head sculpt detail is really, really good as well. Really nice sort of eyes, eyebrows on there. It's It's really, really nicely done. Got like sort of elfin ears as well. So yeah, I mean, it's I do admire what they did quality wise with these toys. Just a shame. I mean, it's an irony, I suppose, that they went to all the trouble with the toys, which I'm sure the cartoon was intended to support, and then the cartoon didn't make it. Because I mean, I've been thinking about this a little bit actually, and I was sort of thinking that my son didn't really go through any sort of massive action figure stages in terms of his sort of toys. And I do wonder whether my generation was perhaps one of the last generations to really have that sort of that kind of emphasis on sort of play figures, because obviously he was massively into his Fortnite. If I know Fortnite do figures for Fortnite, but I don't know if they're a big thing or not. And finally, here we have Panthro, who is always the muscles of the group. He had nunchucks in the original. I can't remember if they got edited out for Britain. It's the sort of thing they didn't tend to like, because that's why we got Hero Turtles instead of Ninja Turtles, because they didn't like the idea of these sort of nasty kind of bone-breaking weapons being shown in the kids' cartoon, which is kind of understandable. But I don't know if that actually did get edited out of the UK version. I suspect it might have been. But I guess neither these days, these are appearing on satellite networks, that it wouldn't have mattered. So in 2011, he was being fully equipped with his normal sort of arsenal of weapons as per the original. But I just thought that was a really nice selection. Is that it? Not necessarily. Did I get a snarf? I really don't care if I got a snarf. No, I think that is it. That was it. But those are all the main hero characters, and Mumra as well as an added bonus. So I thought that was quite a nice little grouping to get for not ridiculous money at all. Because as I say, I guess this version of the series isn't perhaps attracting the sort of kind of classic retro vintage sort of figures that the original figures do these days. I mean, I've seen some incredible auctions for the original figures, but for me, they don't have any real sort of pull, because I just wasn't into them. I didn't have a single Thundercats toy that I can recall at all. But I very much liked the cartoon, and it had really good music and stuff as well. And it had good gimmicks, and some really good vehicles and all this sort of good stuff. The mythology of it was really good, and it was just interesting because it was they were kind of starting from a position of weakness, so they had to make allies and so on. And Lionel was trying to figure out what he was supposed to do because he was very young. So all in all, yeah, it's their I think that's a really nice thing, and I'm going to try and hang on to these, because I mean, my son may not care much for them, but I might just hang on to them with the accessory pack there and just try and keep them intact, because I think ultimately they might become a little bit more collectible over time, but they're just too young yet. Because I mean, these have only been out for 10 years. It seems strange to think of that, given that the show they're based on must be getting on for 40 years old. It's crazy, but that's the nature of it these days, isn't it? Everything gets rebooted and has one last huzzah before they decide to finally get rid of it. But yeah, that's it's a really nice little collection, that, and relatively painless to get hold of, as I say, because it was just one eBay job lot, so that was quite useful. So I'm pleased with that, and interesting seller as well. He's got some other sort of interesting stuff, and I did pick up a couple of other bits from him as well. So I'm going to be doing a few more videos in the near future, just waiting for a few more bits to arrive. But as soon as they do, I will be back with you. So do like and subscribe. Cheers for now.